This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. So let's see today another very important session in which we are going to talk about booting procedure. So what exactly is this booting process or booting procedure? See, what happens is the moment you power on the machine till you get the login screen, your machine will go through various phases which are termed as booting process. Now it happens with everything. You power on the mobile phone or a computer, desktop, laptop, or a server. It goes through some phases, and those phases will be termed as booting procedure or booting process. Now we have two different type of booting process. I thought that it would be beneficial for you to know that how things used to be in earlier time and now what is the change we got, right? So the moment we power on our Linux machine or any laptop, desktop, any computer, when you power on, the first thing we are going to get is BIOS. Or nowadays, there is one more firmware technology, UEFI. BIOS stands for Basic Input Output System. UEFI stands for Unified Extensible Firmware Interface. So these are nothing but firmware settings that keeps information about your system, what's the configuration you are having, how much power supply your system will be getting, what's the date and time to be stored, right? All the configurations of your system and the settings will be stored in BIOS or UEFI. Now, as soon as you power on the machine, BIOS will take charge and it is going to perform a test, which is called as POST. Now, POST stands for Power On Self-Test. You take any electronic device, whether it is your AC, refrigerator, television, or mobile phone, laptop, desktop, computer, any electronic device, the moment you power on, it is going to perform this test to check whether everything connected to me is working properly or not. If it is working properly, it will continue to boot. Otherwise, it will give a different behavior. Especially in systems, we will get beeps. Different beeps will be given, right? So with that, you will understand that your system is not good to boot. There is some problem in my hardware or maybe battery or maybe anything else. You'll be checking out that. So that's the rule of BIOS. Another thing that BIOS will also hold the boot order, which device to boot first, which device to boot second, which device to boot third. If you have kept first boot device as CD and there is a CD drive in which you have inserted the CD, so it will boot with that and try to show you the screen. If it is not available, then it will move to second boot device. Maybe second boot device you have kept as your hard disk. Now in your hard disk, if there is an operating system, it is going to activate the partitioning table. It can be MBR or it can be GPT. You remember we have studied two types of partitioning table. Whichever you have used, it is going to activate that kind of partitioning table. Now, what is the role of these partition table? It is going to activate the most important component that is needed to boot your system, which is called as bootloader. Now, bootloader is the tool that is responsible for booting your operating system. Now, what was the booting procedure that we used to have in a previous version of Red Hat, like Red Hat 6? Its name was grub. Grub stands for Grand Unified Boot Loader. But if you see from Red Hat 7 carry forwarded to Red Hat 8, that bootloader is retired. And in place of that, there is a new bootloader that has been introduced, which is called as Grub 2, the second version of Grub. Now, what's the difference between them and all that thing we'll learn in a coming time. Basically, the role of Grub and Grub 2 is to load your system It will activate some scripts that is needed to boot your system. And finally, it is going to do the major operation, activating kernel. Now, as soon as kernel is activated, as you know, everything in the system is dependent on kernel, right? So as soon as the kernel is activated, it is going to activate all the devices that are connected to your system. It may be other hard disks, the partitions, or Ethernet adapter, network adapters, right? Or some USB ports or PCI slots, everything it is going to get activated and bring it into the use. Once all the devices are activated, it is then going to start the first process in the system. After activating the whole hardware, it's time to activate the software. So it is going to activate the first process in the system. Earlier, it used to be init. Init was considered as the mother process to all the processes in the system. Only after init is executed, all the remaining processes used to be called out. So init is the mother process that start first during the boot till Red Hat 6. Now there is a major change, because since the beginning of Linux, the first process used to be init. For the first time it happened that from Red Hat 7, init has been retired, and in place of in it, there was a new process introduced called systemd. So from Red Hat 7 and 8, the mother process to all process, or the first process that starts during the boot, is now systemd. Again, I'll tell you the differences in a short while. Now, init, after executing all the processes, what are the processes? It may print welcome banner, it may mount all the file systems, or it may activate the swap, right? And after doing all sort of things, it is going to give you a run level. Now, run level is nothing but a working environment screen. In which environment you are preferring to work. You can say that I want to work in command line, so it gives you command line environment. If you wanted to work in graphical screen, it is going to give you graphical environment. You want to work in a single user restricted environment, it will give you that environment. You want to work with multiple user environment, it gives you multi-user environment. Like that, it used to give you the environment in which you want to work. Now guys, concept is absolutely same in Red Hat 7 and 8. Instead of calling it run level, you are now calling it targets. That's it. So what is this targets? Same thing. You have command line target, graphical target, single user target, multi-user target. All these targets are nothing but the run level working environment in which you are planning to work with. Okay. All right. So this is the overview. Now you don't have to remember what was there earlier usually, but I just kept it on screen so that you may know that what was the ancestor type of booting and what is the modern booting we got in Red Hat 7 and 8. Maybe if someone asks you during interviews or something, it may be a beneficial thing for you. Otherwise, we are not going to work with the old version still. So let's move on and talk about the booting process of Red Hat 7 and 8. As I told you, the moment you power on the machine, BIOS or UEFI will come into the picture, and it is going to perform post to check everything is okay or not. Now guys, you can actually go into BIOS and UEFI settings by pressing F12, F2. Different keys are there depending upon what laptop or motherboard you are using. Depending on that, there are different keys that you will press, and it is going to stop the booting process, and it will take you into BIOS or UEFI settings, where you can go and make changes in different settings. You can block USB drives, you can unblock it, you can put a settings that what to do if there are errors, right? Different things you can handle inside it, especially the boot order you can set, which is the first boot device, second, third, fourth. Now, whatever first boot device you have kept, if it is a hard disk, in the hard disk, the first thing that gets activated is the partition table. Before the total hard drive is activated, the small portion of your hard drive, which is keeping the boot partition table, will get activated. Now those partition table can be either MBR or it can be GPD, whatever you might have been using. Now that partition table is not going to activate the entire hard disk. It is just going to start the bootloader, the scripts or the tool that is required for booting your operating system, that is going to get started. Now, as soon as you start it, it reads its configuration and behave according to configuration. Now, there is a configuration file for grub2. What is the configuration location? Boot grub2 and grub.cfg, right? If you just go and see what is inside it, let me log in into our machine first of all. Now let me show you. If you just view this, boot grub2 grub.cfg, it holds nothing but the configuration how the system needs to boot. See, when we used to work with the older version of grub, that is grub2, instead of grub2, when we used to have grub, now grub configuration file was directly editable. And as it was directly editable, I have faced many issues when people put wrong entries inside it. See, this is boot configuration. If I open this file, if I edit it, and if I place a wrong parameter, what do you expect? Next time your system will boot properly? Definitely not. It is going to stuck at the time of booting. So that was the problem what we faced a lot whenever people used to edit this file directly unknowingly. So now what it has done, it tell us that do not edit this file directly. Okay, if I don't edit it directly, then suppose I want to change some parameter inside it, how can I change it? So it says to change the parameters, you have to go to other file, which is etc default grub. Go to that file, make whatever changes you want to do, and then run this command grub to make config. Now, what's the logic in this? See guys, if I directly edit a file and leave a wrong parameter, next time booting, my system will be halted. If I put a parameter in a separate file, and a command verifies those changes, that whether you have put a correct parameter or not. So when you run grub to make config, it will read this file. And once it has completed reading, it will find were there any errors inside it. If there are any errors inside it, it is not going to put that into your main file. If there were no errors, everything is cool and fine, then only it is going to copy that thing into your main file. So with this, your main file will be error-free. No nasty things, no wrong things will be added into that, and your booting process will always be smooth and fine. At least with bootloader configuration, there wouldn't be any problem. Okay, all right. Now, let's see what changes I can make in this configuration file. Guys, suppose you have a kernel version installed in your system. For example, I have a kernel version 4.18 which is installed in my machine. Now, when you go to Red Hat website or kernel.org, kernel.org is a website from where you can download the kernels and update the patches. But if you are using Red Hat, what I can say, subscription, then it is highly recommended that you should only download the new kernel from Red Hat website, because they will make it some changes inside it which is suitable perfectly as per Red Hat environment. But otherwise, all the kernels are first released from kernel.org. It's an open source, so anybody can download and use it, but I don't recommend it. If you are working with Red Hat, better to go to Red Hat website and get new kernels. Anyway, when you go to Red Hat website or kernel.org, you may find some new kernels available, 4.20, 4.40, or maybe 4.80, or maybe 5.0. New kernels are available like that. So we are using 4.18. latest kernels are available. Guys, these are nothing but patches. You can understand it like that. Security patches, what we used to download and update in Windows every time to time. There used to be, especially in XP, there used to be SP1, SP2 service packs. So same thing. When you update the kernel, automatically new features will be added, new security will be updated. That thing will happen. So you have new kernels available. You can go with any kernel and you can update it. Suppose I have updated my kernel to one but new. That means one less kernel version than the latest one. So that is safe to go, guys. Do not go directly for the latest kernel. Always go with one lesser than that because it is stable to work with. Later on, you can go with the latest one. Anyway, so suppose I have upgraded my kernel from 4.18 to 4.80. The moment I upgrade the kernel, there are some problems. Maybe my softwares are not behaving properly, or at the time of booting, there are unnecessary issues and errors are coming. Now, if there is a problem that is affecting your production, you would definitely not want to use this new version of kernel. You want to roll it back. Now, guys, rolling back is not possible once you have upgraded the patch or once you have upgraded the kernel. So what Grub2 says that why would you upgrade the kernel without testing? Obviously, guys, on production environment, we don't put the new kernel directly. There are test machines on which we will do all our testings. And once it is through, then only we will put it into production environment. But still, Grub says that why would you do that unnecessarily? See, to test your environment perfectly, even though you don't have a test environment, what you can do, you can install 4.18 also, you can install 4.20 also, you can go with 4.40 also, and you can go with 5.0 also. What's the problem? Keep all the kernels installed. Same like what we have learned connections. You can create as many connections, but you can use only one at a time. So here also, you can install multiple kernels and keep it. Suppose I have kept my default kernel. Out of all, one kernel you can select as your default kernel. So every time system will be booting with that default kernel. Suppose if that kernel is misbehaving, so during boot, it gives you 5 seconds of time to stop the booting process and change your kernel and boot it. So it's like you're having multiple engines. If one engine fail, we'll switch to other engine and we will continue our journey. So if 4.4 is not working properly, I'll just change the kernel at the time of booting. So for that, you will be getting 5 seconds, I'm sorry. So these two changes you can actually do in the configuration file. Which kernel to make as your default kernel? And how much time do you need to decide to stop the booting process and change the kernel? By default, you'll get 5 seconds. If you want, you can decrease that timeout value. Now, unfortunately, guys, in our case, we are having only one kernel. So there is no chance that I may have to choose a different kernel. Now, if I say uname hyphen R, it tells you which kernel you are using right now. Now, there is a command rpm-qa. When you run this and say show me, or just say rpm-q and just show me how many kernels do you have. Or you can go with rpm-qa, show me how many kernels do you have. So you see it says only one kernel is installed 4.18. There are no multiple kernels available. If there are multiple kernels, I would definitely choose something else and I'll make it as my default kernel. So as of now, I don't have choice to change my kernel, but at least I can decrease the timeout value to check the configuration changes. Now, if you go see how to check which kernel you are using, uname-r. How to see all kernels, just go with rpm command to check how many kernels are installed. Okay, now what I wanted to do over here is I would like to check what is the timeout value I'm getting in booting time. So just grep out the word timeout from boot grub2 grub.cfg file. Now over here you can see, just ignore all other lines and concentrate the first value, that is set timeout equals to 5. That 5 is nothing but 5 seconds to choose, right? The other timeouts are different, ignore it. But first timeout, it is telling you that every time the system boot, it is going to give you 5 seconds of time to make a decision to stop booting and change the kernel. Now I would like to increase that time. What did I told you guys, that directly we should never edit that file. So you got to go to another file, etc default grub, and here there would be a line grub timeout. See, if you have multiple kernel, you will also have grub default kernel. So in our present situation, there is only one kernel, so you won't find grub default kernel line. But over here, you can see that there is grub timeout value is available. So just go to that file, make your necessary change, and you can simply come down and run this command, grub2 make config, and update your main file. Let's do it. I'll go to vim etc, or sorry, etc default grub. Go to this file, and first line itself is telling you 5. Now guys, if you want to replace a single character in VI editor, I'll show you a shortcut. See, to replace a single character, you don't have to go to insert mode, then change the value, press escape, come out. I'm replacing one letter, right? One letter, not one word, one letter, I'm sorry. So you can just go to that letter that you want to replace, press R key. When you press R, it allows you to replace the character. After pressing R, type any new value. Did you observe that 5 is now replaced by 9? So whenever you are replacing a single character, just go to that character, press R, and put the new word. One more VI editor shortcut I'll tell you. How to save and quit. Guys, to save and quit the file, you'll press escape, and after that, you'll go with colon WQ. I don't want to do such a long thing. So like Windows, you have lots of shortcut. Here also you have to press shift 2 times Z or Z, or just enable capital letter and press 2 times capital Z. So I'll press shift ZZ. You see it got saved. Am I sure? You can just read it, cat etc default grub. So shift and 2 times Z or Z will save your file. So that is the shortcut in VI editor. R will replace and shift ZZ will allow you to save and come out of the file. Remember, these hacks are really useful. Anyway, after making the change in the file, if you read the timeout value, it is still 5 seconds. So it is not yet updated. Now it's time to check whether you have done any mistakes. So I'll run the command grub2 make config and override the changes in boot grub2 grub.cfg file. So now it is going to thoroughly verify. Have you done any mistake in the in the subconfig file? If there are no mistakes, it is going to update the original file and finish the process. If not, lots of errors will be displayed on your screen. So you see it says done. There is no configuration problem reported. Everything seems to be well and fine. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'll check grep timeout value. Did you observe that that 5 seconds has been replaced with 9 seconds? So it's guaranteed now that every time the system boot, you are going to get 9 seconds to decide whether to continue with default kernel or to change it with any other kernel of your choice. So this is how we can make the changes in grep configuration file. Now guys, as soon as the grub completes the configuration, it is going to continue and it creates a temporary file system called initramfs. Did you remember guys, what did I told you, that grub gets activated from MBR and GPT the partition table. Still, the entire disk is not activated. You will be amazed to know that there is a small portion on your disk which is called as bootstrap. Now this is your hard disk and this is your bootstrap where your MBR and GPT is residing. So all these activities are happening in that bootstrap. The whole disk is not yet active. So things are still going on in your mind. Let's say you're not waked up completely. So in that bootstrap, it is going to create init RAM fs, initial RAM file system. Now what does that init RAM fs will do? See, init RAM-FS will hold some drivers that are needed to activate all the other devices that are connected to your system. See, not only your main hard disk has to be activated, other disks that are connected should be activated, IDE devices, SCSI devices, if there are RAIDs that has to be activated, all the other hardware that is connected to your system needs to be active. For that, it is going to create a temporary file system in RAM holding the device drivers, and then it is going to activate the kernel. Right now, once the kernel is activated, the first thing it does is it will try to activate all the hardware, including your main hard disk, which is holding the operating system. So from here, your OS will actually start booting. Now, once the kernel is activated, as I told you, all the hardware connected, including your main disk and your operating system, will be activated. And then all the hardware activates, and later on, the first process in the system called systemd will be activated. So the booting process, you can check it out, that the first process that gets activated during boot is systemd. You can simply run a command called pstree, process tree. You see the first process that is getting started from the beginning is systemd. So systemd is the mother process to all process. Only after systemd gets activated, all the remaining processes will be called out. Okay. Now, once systemd starts, what it does, it tries to activate all the important process of your system. Here is the list of few process. Hostname will be set, network will be started, SE Linux will be activated, welcome banner will be printed, all the other hardware related tasks will be done, file systems will be mounted, your proc file system will start the processing, var will start logging the activities, swap will be activated, and once everything is ready, then it is going to give you run level or targets. So as I told you, run level or targets are nothing but the environment in which you want to work, probably command line environment, graphical environment. Other than that, you have single user environment like safe mode where you can repair your faults of the system, or there is emergency mode where you have to go forcefully if you have lost your root password. So all that thing can be achieved by accessing the run levels or targets. Okay, so traditionally, when we used to work till Red Hat 6, the run levels were used to be 7, 0 to 6. Now, out of all, only two run levels used to be very important, run level 3 and run level 5. If you set run level 3 as your default, it is going to boot your system automatically into command line interface, no graphics whatsoever. If you have kept run level 5 as your default, it used to boot into GUI, graphical user interface. So these two used to be very important. Now same thing is carry forwarded in Red Hat 7 and 8. You have run level 3 dot target that gives you command line by default, and run level 5 dot target that gives you GUI by default. Now these two fellow, run level 3, run level 5, they are now have another name, alias name. The alias name is multi-user target or graphical target. But I want you to remember them as run level 3 target and run level 5 target. That is their real name. Alias name, as you see, the same alias name is used for others also. Run level 2, run level 4 are also called as multi-user. So how you can distinguish? Run level 3 target is important. That gives you command line interface. And run level 5 target, which is also known as graphical target, is known as run level 5 target. Now guys, if you forget any time which target is what, how it is important, I would recommend you to read one file. The file name is etc inittab. See, inittab file is that file which we use to edit to choose a default run level in Red Hat 6. But as you know, init process is retired, so init tab file is useless, but it holds important information. See, it says init tab is no longer used, and there it is in thus explaining you that systemd uses targets instead of run levels. By default, there are two main targets: multi-user target, that is nothing but run level 3 command line; graphical target, analogous to run level 5. It's also telling you that how can you check your default target: systemctl get default. How to change your default target: systemctl set default. So again, get and set, right? These are the two things that are coming since ACL. Even yesterday's class we have seen get and set option. Anyway, how to check my present or current run level? To check your current run level, you can go with a command who-r. Now, when you go for who-r, it tells you what is the run level you are using. So I'm using run level number 5, which is nothing but graphical environment. You can verify it, go to your virtual machine, and you see graphics have been loaded. But he does not support graphics, so we are working with command line, but actually your system is booted into graphical environment. Great. Now I want to check my default target, so I'll go with the command systemctl get default. It says the default target is graphical.target. Let us say that I would like to replace it with multi-user target or run level 3.target. How can I change it? You can say systemctl set default. Now guys, how many targets in total we have? As per the manual, what we have seen, there are 6 run levels, but I did not mention that there are only 6 or 7 targets. If you press double tap after this, it is going to show you all the targets that are available. So there is a huge list of targets that are available, right? So I don't want to use all of them. You can shut down your machine. If you set reboot target, every time the system boot, automatically it gets reboot. Therefore, you also have shut down that target. If you set it to default, every time the system start, automatically it shuts down. So you need to check which run level you are running. That's the reason I told you that better you can remember either this name, multi-user target, or you can remember graphical target, or simply run level 3 target or run level 5 target. So I would like to make run level 3 dot target. Now go back and check it out. It says next time your system boot, it is going to boot into command line. As of now, it has booted into graphics. Now guys, this is a test environment, so I'm simply rebooting the machine, but I want to give you a disclaimer that on production environment, never do such thing. Please shut down all the applications, take downtime, and then do this activity. Let's see the booting process. As soon as the system started to boot, observe at the bottom, giving you 9 seconds. And it is displaying two things: Red Hat Linux version, and there is some rescue. I'll talk about rescue in later time. But within 9 seconds, I did not do anything. So it continued to boot with the default kernel. So anyway, the kernel is now starting to load. As soon as kernel is loaded, your hardwares will be activated and your processes will be started with systemd. So you can press escape to see what's going on. This is all after kernel is activated and system D is started. Once system D has started, it will going to start all the processes. Init used to be little slow, guys. Only after completion of one process, it used to activate the other process, thereafter the other. Now, what systemd used to do is it will activate all the processes at a time. So whichever takes shorter time will be started first, whichever take the larger time, it was going to start later, but it is going to initiate all the processes at a time. That makes your booting process little faster. Okay, so you see by default the system booted into command line. There is no graphics available. So I'll log in with my username, I'll give my password, and I'll check who-r. It says you are on run level 3. You can still connect from PuTTY. So let me go with restart a session. I'll give username and password. Now I'll say who-r. So it says I'm going to work with run level 3, that is command line, right? So this is the way how you can boot into command line. So when you are connected in PuTTY, doesn't matter whether it is graphics or whether it is command line, you'll all be able to access command line on PuTTY. But when you are directly connected to your VM or physical machine, then definitely it makes a difference whether you are using graphics or command line. Now, guys, suddenly, suppose I have booted my system in run level 3, which is command line, and now I am planned to start graphics. See, I will run one command called, um, what was that command? Watch. See, watch is nothing but a monitoring command. If you say watch ls, every 2 seconds it will run ls and show you the output. Okay. So I'm telling watch who-r. I want to just have a view whether my run level changes or not. Now let me go back to my console direct machine. Now here I have booted into command line, but now there is a need of graphics. So what I want to do, I want to change the mode from command line to graphics without shifting my run level. I don't want to take another reboot or downtime. While I am still on run level 3, I want to initiate graphics. Guys, I told you that run level 3 or multi-user mode will give you command line. I never told you that it does not support graphics. By default, it gives us command line, but whenever there is a requirement, you can run a command start X. Now, start X command will only work on your console when you are directly connected to your virtual machine or physical machine through console, not on the PuTTY terminal. PuTTY does not support graphics. Now, when I hit enter, you see it is going to activate graphics, whereas you can keep this terminal open. You see your terminal is not getting disconnected. Your run level is still showing run level 3. So I'm on run level 3. Run level has never changed, but I have still able to log in into graphical environment. So that's how you can get graphics without changing your run level. So if it is urgent, maybe I wanted to browse internet or I need some graphical tools help to install a software. So in that scenario, I need to start X. That is nothing but starting X11 daemon. X11 daemon is nothing but graphical service that you are activating while you are connected to command line. Okay, now the next thing is I want to come back to my default values. First of all, if I check it out, the run level systemctl get default, it is multi-user target. I want to change it back to graphical target. So I'll say systemctl set default graphical target, or in place of graphic, you can type run level 5 dot target. Now, when you check it out, it says next time your system is going to be graphical target. First thing. Next thing, what I wanted to do is I wanted to change the timeout value from 9 seconds to 5 seconds again. So let me go to etc default graph. I'll press R on 9 and type 5. So word is replaced. Now I'll use Shift ZZ to save it, right? So it is done. Now let me run the command grub2 hyphen make config hyphen o, and let me update the file boot grub2 grub.cfg. Done. Now you go back with grep command and you see it is going to be 5 seconds. So I have reduced the timeout value, and the next thing is I have also uh, changed my default target. Right now, for some purpose, I'm changing the password of root. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Okay, now let me reboot the machine. So when I reboot the machine, see, same thing will happen. At the bottom, you observe it is showing you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm not doing anything. So it is going to work with the default values. You can press escape to see the boot process, how it is booting. I forgot to mention about one more file. I'll let you know how you can check your last booting process if you have missed it. Okay, so you observe now that system will be booting into graphical environment. Now, I'm sorry, I will now try to log in as root. Graphically, if you want to log in as root, I'll go with not listed user, and let me type the username root, and I'll try old password red hat REDHAT. See guys, it says that didn't work. Okay, let me again try red hat one more time. See, again it is telling that didn't work. That means I have lost the root password. Now it happens, guys, in most of the organization by mistake, or by losing out some files, we may not be able to remember what was the last root password I was working, right? So maybe I changed the password and forgot, or somebody else have changed the password and now they forgot the password. So how can I reclaim my lost password, or how can I reset the password back to old one as it is now gone? See, if there is a normal user's password you have lost, you can log in as root and change the password for normal user, no problem. But as a root, if you have lost your own password, then there is no direct method. You have to break into your operating system. Now, as I tell you that this is a process to breaking into your operating system, you need to get approval before doing this activity. Without taking an approval, if you perform this activity, it would be treated as security breach, right? So make sure that you have got already the approval. Now I'm going to turn off the machine and boot it again. So let me just right click and say reset. Now this time when your system is booting, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'll press up arrow. You can press up arrow or down arrow, whatever. When you press it, observe the countdown has stopped. Now if I hit enter on my first line, it is going to boot normally. If I take the cursor to second line, it is going to take me to rescue mode. See, rescue mode is a single user mode where you can go and you can repair your operating system. But the problem is it is very much same like safe mode of Windows. Here it is going to ask you root password before entering into operating system. Now guys, do we know root password? We have lost the root password. Suppose some file systems are corrupted, you want to repair it, then you can go to rescue mode and do your work lonely, nobody will be connected, and you can mount important file systems and repair it. But in our case, we don't have root password. So going with rescue mode may not be possible. So we have to break. Now what I'll do, I'll go to option number one. You remember when the partitioning class was going on, it was asking us to go into emergency mode, but before it was asking root password. Exactly the same thing will happen with rescue environment. So I'll go with option number one, and you can read at the bottom, it is mentioned press E to edit the selected item. I'm going to press E. Let me press E to edit the selected item, and you see it has given me some parameters. Now go to fourth line, which is starting with a word called Linux. Now guys, that is your kernel line, and this concept is called as setting a kernel parameter during boot. So I'm coming to word learn Linux. Now that line is a huge line. It consists of 3 lines inside it, right? So if I go with that, it's almost a 3 liner, right? So I need to go to the last or end of that line. How can I go to the end of the line? You can go letter by letter, letter by letter, letter by letter like that, or you can press Control E. All these steps are mentioned very, very clearly in your manual. So I'll type Control E to take me to the end of that line. And here you have to pass a parameter rd dot break. When you run this command rd.break, what it does, it actually breaks your booting process and force you into emergency mode. This is the reason I was telling you that this is a kind of ethical hacking what you are doing to your system, so you need approval. Without approval, if you do, it may go against you. So anyway, now once you have passed the parameter, it is written at the bottom to press Control X to continue. Now, once we added the thing, we'll now type Control X. Don't worry, the concept is very important, so I'll be repeating it twice for you. Steps are a little critical. Why I'm going to repeat you twice, that also I'll tell you. If you are planning to go for certification exam, they will give you a machine whose password is lost. So if you want to continue writing the examination, first they will ask you to reset the root password. Once you reset, you can open the machine, and there you will find your question paper and where you have to perform the task. So if you are not able to unlock the machine, what examination you will write, right? So first step of certification exam would be breaking the password. And we are now in emergency mode. Now, once we are in emergency mode, we need to find where is our operating system. To find your operating system, you need to just go with mount command. Now, when you go with mount command, you will find at the bottom there is a directory with the name called sysroot. That is nothing but your operating system. And you see it is in read-only format. Now you know very well, guys, if something is in read-only format, can you make any changes inside it? Can you make any change inside it? Definitely not. I need to make it read write first. Now, guys, these are all security things. They don't want everything to be so easy that anyone can break and take a ride of it. So let me use grep command. I'll say mount grep for sysroot. So sysroot is right now in read-only format. You should change it to read-write format. Guys, that directory is already mounted. How can I make a change in a mounted thing? You need to use this command mount-o remount. I'm telling that don't unmount it. I'm telling remount, just refresh it. How to refresh? By using an option read write. On which directory? Sysroot. So I'm telling that just remount sysroot directory with read write permission. Now you go with mount and grep. Did you find that earlier it was having read only, which is now changed to read and write? So this is the way, guys, how you can change the stuff from read only to read write before you can access it. So what was the first hurdle? The first hurdle was you have to type a special parameter RD break to come into emergency mode. Second thing, your operating system is in read-only mode, so you have to change it to read-write. That also we have done. Now, third thing, I need to go into sysroot, but I should go with admin privileges. I cannot just say cd sysroot and I'll get the root power. See, I am not a root user as of now. I want to get root access. So there is a special command called chroot. I'm telling change me as a root. Give me root environment with respect to which directory? Sysroot, which is holding your operating system. So I'm telling change me as a root user for sysroot. Now, once you go inside it, do ls, you'll find all your directories, files, what you have created. You are now root. Now, if you are root and you want to change your own password, you just need to say password command. That's it. And it is asking you to type a new password. Now, I'll reset the password to Red Hat. One more time, Red Hat. So you see, your password is now updated successfully. So this is the way how you can break in and you can change your password, but still it is not over. You guys, I hope you have not forgotten about SE Linux. SE Linux is one of the major security component in Linux. And here you have breached the security, you have updated your password. And if you think that without updating SE Linux, if you can do this, then you are wrong. You need to update SE Linux policies before next reboot so that this password should become valid. If you don't update SE Linux, it is not going to work. Okay, if you have disabled SE Linux, that is a different case. You don't have to do anything else. But suppose as most of the organization which uses SE Linux, most of the environments, so they don't want to take the chances, SE Linux is going to resist it. So how can I make SE Linux to believe that I have changed the password? You need to create a hidden file in slash folder, in root folder. How to create a hidden file? Whenever the name starts with dot, it is a hidden file. So I'll say dot auto relabel, not any file. You must create a file with this same name, auto relabel. At the time of booting, when it finds this file, automatically SE Linux policies are going to get relabeled. Now we have to say exit to leave your operating system. You can say exit again to continue booting with these changes. But here what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to reset it again to show you one more time. So observe this time, second time I'm showing you, as the countdown appears, press any key like up arrow. Make sure the line is in, the cursor is in first line. Press E, go to the line which is starting with the word Linux, and press Control E to go to the end. Control E is not written anywhere, just type Control E. Control E to go to the end, Control A to go back to first line. E for end, A for beginning. Anyway, I'll go with E. Now here I have to type rd.break. Now press Control X to continue booting. You are in emergency mode now. In emergency mode, I need to check sysroot. So I'll say mount grep for, grep for sysroot. So it says it is available in read-only. Automatically at next reboot, it is going to available in read-only mode only. So let me change it back again. I'll say mount -o remount with read-write permission sysroot directory. Now you go back and check it out. It is changed from read-only to read-write. Access it in root environment by using chroot command sysroot. Now once you are inside it, you can check you are a root user. Now you can run password command and reset the password to whatever you want. Now once the password is changed, do not forget to create in slash a hidden file with the name called auto relabel. No spelling mistakes should be done. Now you say exit to leave your operating system, and say exit one more time to leave emergency mode and continue booting. Exit, it will continue to boot, but as it is continuing, it will find auto relabel and so we need to wait for almost 5 minutes so that SE Linux policies are relabeled. Once the relabeling is done, system will be rebooted and then it will boot normally, and we'll check our lost password or our new password what we have reset is working or not. Meanwhile, once the system is restarted, I'll show you one more important log file that you must be aware definitely. But meanwhile, so far, any questions are there, you can put your questions. It says SE Linux policies are now getting relabeled. So there is a question coming in. It seems to be a critical step. What happens if there is a mistake somewhere, forgot to create auto relabel? Doesn't make a big impact, it will hang. Again, you need to start the process from the beginning. You have to shut down the machine, boot again, pause the booting process, type E, go all that thing, and then create auto relabel file. If you don't create auto relabel file, it stucks and it will not allow you to use the changed password. You're most welcome. Other things, guys. Meanwhile, instead of waiting, if you have any questions, you can put your questions. Okay, so it's now getting restarted. Let's give it some time. You can press always escape to see the booting process. grep, see, when there is a file, if you are trying to find out something in the file, you can go with grep, the word, and the file name. But suppose you are running some other command, like mount command. From the output of mount command, if you want to grep anything, then you have to use pipe grep. So grep can be directly run on a file, and you can search a word, grep word and the file name. But when you are running some other command and you expect the output, from that output, if you want to catch anything, then you will go with pipe grep. I'll show you in a moment. Once the system is booted, practically I'll show you the difference. Yeah, it's not an L, it's pipe. It's a pipe. Okay, now let me try to go with not listed. I'll go with root user. Again, REDHAT. Last time it was rejected, but this time you can see that it is going to accept the password and allow you to log in. So you see, it allowed us to log in. Now, let us say that you wanted to check how the system booted last time. So you can read a file var log boot.log. The only problem with this file is it holds the history of your uh, booting since the system was installed. So it's a big file. So last when it was installed was on May 30. So since then it is holding the booting process. If you go below, then there will be a next day booting information. You can see Monday, May 31. So grepping could be a best thing over here. right? Then if you go same way, if you go below, you'll find, so it stores the information about how the system was booted, and you can just check it out. So if you check the end of this file, you will definitely find out your last booting process. Maybe you can say tail hyphen 50, and you can go to var log boot.log. So you see it might show you the recent boot, how the system booted last time and all. So that is it, guys. Okay, I get that the grep command doubt is clear, so that's fine. That is it, guys, for today's session. Uh, I hope there are no questions, as we have entertained the questions already. So we'll stop the session here, guys. Let's meet up tomorrow and continue with some other critical tasks. Right? If the total system is failure, how to recover it? Tomorrow we are going to learn, so it's an important class. See you tomorrow, guys. So thank you for today. Let's meet tomorrow.